Uh, stop. What? Why was there a what? Why was there a noise? Anyway, let me. I guess we can check audio. If nothing else, we can check audio today. Test. Is this working? Can I hear myself? Can you let me hear myself? Hello. Test. Yeah, it's. Why is it making noise? Why is it? Anyway. It's working. The point is that it's working. So, holy shit! Listening to oneself is a horrible action. Anyways, let me. Do I have something else to do? No. Let me. Yeah. Let me. What's the expression is idle break. It's not an idle break itself. It's not a break, but I had to. Yeah. Okay. That and also getting some water. That's everything that's going to happen. Also, I mean, we haven't really started, so it doesn't matter. What's up? Anyway, sorry. I like that. I cannot forget that it's literally absolutely silent and out of nowhere. I come here and I scream and it's like fucking chaotic. Anyways, any. Ah, yeah. I want a candy. Give me a second. What's up? Okay, now for real. Also, I'm going to die. No, sorry, sorry. I know what I wanted to do. Give me a second. Give me a second. Give me a second. Don't worry. That's why I tend to try to check if I am muted or not. To not have these occasions happen in which I start to fucking speak and I forget that I am muted on myself. Anyways, good evening. Here we go. Tiny change. Absolutely mental. Anyways, anything important to say to begin with? I don't think so. Hope everything is fine. Good morning. Today, what do we have in store? Today, I believe it's going to be a good day. Not much is truly happening in terms of the world, so that's nice. I don't know. Video games. We won't talk about video games. I don't know. I want to, you know, something. I am very angry that actually video games in themselves don't add that much depth to themselves. I guess yeah, there are some very interesting games once in a while, but something that sadly has happened already is the video games are mostly for the entertainment value more than for the, I guess, reflexive value, something along those lines. There are not that many games that have something in themselves besides just entertaining you. You know, I don't know. I get playing something like Vampire Survivors for 300 hours because it's addictive. I get it. But I also want, I don't know, more stuff like that one game where you're an schizophrenic. You know, that one game where you're forced to go through a tower in the middle of a desert. That one. It's not called Black Ops, but it's similar to that one. Sorry, I am bad with names. That's my excuse today. But yeah, I don't know. Has there? I mean, probably also being honest. It's not that there are no games like that. I'm pretty sure there are. I guess at least monthly one of those always being released, and if we are to actually search for them, we are going to find out that yeah, in reality, there are a lot more amazing games than what we could have ever expected. But also, it's in a sense, it's hard to create a good game with entertainment value in terms of mechanics while also possessing a message. I think, sadly, so far, we haven't truly understood how to mix both narration and the gameplay in many cases. I don't think you can, I guess, I don't know, you can convert into a role like something like, uh, let's say, you try to make a game about, for example, Psychonauts, that is about visiting the psyche and the mind of people and whatnot. You cannot make a role like out of that while also possessing a message of any sort. You cannot create stuff like that. It's not that it's directly impossible. It hasn't been done so far, and it's, I guess, incredibly complicated to, not complicated. It's rather, it's unrealistic to say that we are going to have anything like that soon. In terms of how good we are developing games, we are not that revolutionary in many cases. So yeah, it's I guess sad in that sense, but at the same time, anyways, we have very good stories. We are. I have been thinking about it for I guess a long time already, and they're very good at perpetuating myths and narrations and our own culture and whatnot through video games, even if we are not so aware of that, and even if we are not so capable of integrating that into any kind of mechanic, we can at the very least have stuff like, I guess, God of War, or I mean, yeah, even most certainly stuff like God of War is capable of explaining a lot more the myths than many other cases. But yeah, we have also, I guess, I don't know, stuff like Alice in Wonderland. Are there, I think, for example, many of the Chinese gacha games also have some sort of culture behind them, and even then, we also have in the bigger scheme of things stuff like certain figures that are always present amongst multiple games, not in terms of one recurring character, but rather one recurring archetype. Like, for example, Wukong. We have Wukong present in almost all major MOBAs in one way or another. Somehow, we have many of those things. It's not that we do not carry stuff of that sort, but at the same time, I guess, being honest, we are too early to expect that we can narrate our present days and make something out of this modern life into an interesting video game, and and to see it happen soon. It can happen. I guess it will happen. I don't know, in the next 10 or 20 years. We're going to find something amongst the lines of, wow, yeah, how is the modern life and how we all live, or existence, and whatnot, and the different problems that the average person has to go through, which even then might not be all that similar for everyone. No matter what, we are still very subjected to our own cultures, and there are so many differences, even if they are tiny, in the whole collection of them. Every single one of us finds so many differences and whatnot that it's surprising to see on one hand, but yeah, I guess we have good games. We just don't have outstanding stuff. I don't know. I don't think I have anything that I think and I picture as an obligation to play nowadays. I guess even cinema has has done a better show at that. Sadly, that's also the complication. That's why I was saying we have good games supposedly, but also they are mostly cinematic. I don't know. I guess we have stuff like The Last of Us, but the gameplay isn't all that revolutionary. We are there for the story. You're not there for the gameplay. We have stuff like Uncharted. We have things of that sort, but the narration doesn't happen exactly while you are playing. There is a reason why we have so many tropes out, cinematics, quick time events, and whatnot. And yeah, I mean, even stuff like a Mass Effect, it doesn't even have that much actual gameplay. The most heavy intense, sorry, story intense scenes don't happen in don't happen in any platform of, oh wow, yeah, this is about this one thing. It only happens in the very enclosed space of a cinematic, or an already scripted event. So I don't know. We have games. It's not that we don't have them, but trying to be honest, personally, I don't think that we have anything all that impactful on anybody. But at the same time, yeah, I don't know. I have been slowly trying to reconsider how I feel in general. I think I am in a good state of anhedonia. So how do you even say it in English? Something like that. I don't find myself to be amazed by the world so much, and I think, yeah, there are things that are surprising, but at the same time, it's like so many of them are not so surprising once you have seen things that are similar. I guess the first time that we talk about gods, the first time that anybody has to struggle with the idea of a deity and stuff of that sort, you are going to unavoidably find yourself amazed. But as we keep on existing, living life, and whatnot, it's not so much more surprising. It's not so astonishing anymore, you know? It's it's less than ideal to talk about stuff of that sort, you know? It's it's not so much of an impactful thing. I guess the first cut, to say it with different words, the first cut that you see in your life is going to have a much more intense impact on you than the thousand, thousand and one that you see. You know, that same thing here. Maybe there are, I don't know, yeah, surprising games. Maybe that's also another side of this conversation. I don't know even if the value of the games resides on the integration of real life concepts with anything else. I don't know. I don't think we need to have real life simulations in terms of, oh, wow, yeah, yeah, you need to train how to become a professional shooter uh, at the most advanced tactician to fight on wars later on. We need to have simulators of that kind. Maybe no, but I guess we have stuff like I remember I now that I say it, now that I haven't think about it for a second, there was a stuff even related to how things like Tetris allow the functioning of the mind to be altered and whatnot. Maybe it's just that we also are still in a very early phase of utilizing all of these technologies for stuff. We we have something that we can only categorize as an entertainment. We don't really have a proper way of understanding things such as video games in a manner in which we can utilize them to gain stuff. We haven't truly found all the depth that there can be to it in terms of educational content that can be integrated into video games and similar. We are in a good time in terms of potentiality, but we don't have actually that many revolutions or that many surprising things. It's not all that sad, but yeah, it's just that we have stuff. We don't have the most surprising sort of stuff. We just have stuff, and maybe it could be different stuff, better stuff, more developed stuff from here on now. So who knows? It's just it's just that sometimes it feels like we have so many things, as always. We have so many things, but at the same time, out of what we have doesn't really mean that much. I don't know. We have many video games, we have many technologies, we have many apparatuses for things, but do they contribute towards anything? I mean, yeah, I can keep myself entertained playing video games my whole existence at this point in time. There are already enough of those that it just needs to be explored, the whole market, for anybody to find their most their their most favorite video game of all time. It's I at this point in time, I don't think it is an exaggeration to say or to state to believe that yeah, we have enough creations that we literally can look out there and see. Indeed, everything is, or not everything, not that everything has been created. Enough combinations have been made so that anyone can find something pleasing enough to them so that they can call it their favorite new video game and whatnot. It's it's not that complicated, but I don't know. It's the problem that we don't have stuff like how to connect the audience with the product and whatnot. This whole idea of, oh yeah, we have things that we need to get to people. We need to allow others to grasp what they might want. We need to allow humans to reach for their aims. We need to give everyone and a hand, not just a hand, everything that we can, so that we can make sure in the end that all of us have found their actual favorite video game and whatnot. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know if it is all that important. I will even go as far as to say we are doing a great show at creating video games, yeah. We are doing a good enough show, but at the same time, we are still not integrating them with the rest of the media. We don't have one of the many funny things that has happened throughout time, sadly, is anybody can see that, can say that. We have enough things happening so that we we have already had many attempts at I guess uniting both medias in terms of a video game plus a movie, and we have not had any successful creation out of that. Not in terms of wow, an experimental enough game, but rather a good game in itself that can accompany a movie or that can come hands, yeah, hands in hand, hands to what's how is the expression hand to hand in hand with a movie, something like that. We have many things, but not all of them are all that surprising or all that astonishing. I guess we we have things, but I don't know. At some point, it stops being an actual capacity for us to amaze ourselves in the face of all the wonderful things, and it's more like, oh yeah, I don't know. We have, I guess, a proper estimation will be like 10 million games or so created that are, let's say, good enough. So that at least you can spend an hour and not feel like you wasted that 1 hour trying it out. We have, I don't even know which number I said, 10 million, something like that, of those games at this point existing, maybe. And it's already too much. We already have way too many of them. Not because it's bad to have more options, but rather because it's sort of unrealistic to say that we truly have the best that we could ever have. You know, we have way too many options, and that's it. That's the reason for as to why we decided to not create anymore. We decided to not expect anything else. It's I don't know. It's the general argument of oh yeah, we have too many of thing. Time to not have any more thing. You know, it's like the same thing. You can find it in any kind of media, in any kind of I guess group. We have too many participants in something. We have too many of a certain number in a certain category. Therefore, it is necessary to not worry yourselves too much anymore with the necessity to create even more number itself in the certain category because it is useful to not have as much of that number to keep on increasing because the category in itself might already have what it needs in terms of what the already existing creations provide in terms of oh wow yeah we with that general explanation you can extrapolate that into oh yeah you know what we have already way too many movies, it's time to not make any more movies. We have already way too many people, it's time to not have any more kids. It's time to not procreate anymore. We have way too many, I don't know, songs. There is way too much music existing already. We don't need to have more music. We have I already said we have too many cars, too many phones, too many computers, too much of everything. It's not necessary to keep on creating it anymore because thing already exists in quantity, so quantity must somehow correlate with quality. Not truly. The same thing also applies with games. That's the general point is that yeah, not because we have something in great values in huge numbers, it means anything. It's I don't know. You can look at that from any perspective, I guess. we have way too many content creators. It's time to not have any more of those. Just because we have too many of them. Truly, you think that's the perspective? I don't know, brother. But yeah, it's the same thing as that. But try to not deviate so much from what I'm actually talking about. Video games. Yeah, I don't know. I think there are enough. But at the same time, yeah. Sadly, not there are not so surprising video games out there. We don't have a such astonishing and exuberating or I guess yeah, utterly magnificent works. Most people, even more nowadays, don't even feel like it's necessary to play certain games. It's video games culture in itself is kind of weird. I guess it's not a proper discussion to have. It's not something that we should be worrying ourselves with. We don't even play video games here in directly, so it shouldn't be so much of a worry or so much of a need to talk about it. But yeah, at the same time, sadly, yeah, it's you know, we we don't have that many great works out there. But the same happens with I don't know most things. I guess sometimes you just forget that for their time in their particular context, some things are still utterly surprising, magnificent, wonderful, revolutionary, useful. It's just that from an outer perspective, we end up losing the grasp. I'm not saying that, yeah, sometimes it's not about, sorry, it's not about what we see ourselves, but rather what the general finds on them, There is a reason why stuff like, I guess, it isn't named FIFA anymore, I think, but I will say FIFA or stuff like Call of Duty still get created so much, get reproduced with such ease. All of that still more than anything else works, It's it's interesting to say the least. It's very interesting. If it is something good or what, I don't think we can judge. We should not try to make any sort of judgment about that particularly. But yeah, it's good that at the very least we have stuff like that existing already. So we have a sort of common ground. We have a sort of already existing thing that's something already. Better than to not have any game at all to entertain ourselves with. Better than to not have any movie at all to watch. Better than to not have things, even if they are not the best. That same meme that already became popular at the time of this being created not so long ago of oh yeah, you don't have to make it perfect, you just have to make it at first, then it will be the best. I mean, you literally can look at anything. You can look at the first movie, the movie of this 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 recording of a train that was filmed from such an angle that everybody believed it was literally going to come through the screen. Stuff like that. That also gets replicated everywhere else, basically. We have we had our first video game, we had our first Pong, and yet here we are. We have amazing stuff existing already. I guess you can make also similar statements like, oh yeah, we have stuff like what will be the first concept of a VTuber? Maybe not even the first VTuber itself. The first assimilation of a VTuber and anything of that sort. Like I guess the 2000s era avatars that people utilized to represent themselves and whatnot. We had that era, and now watch that. in comparison to, I guess, the great events that happen with the most famous ones, the great concerts, all of those things. Stuff like that exists in any media. I guess unavoidably, even once again going into the whole example of humans, we have, I don't know, we have had at the very least 2000 years of recorded evolution or so. I think it's more like 10,000 at this point that we can properly trace ourselves out of our own existence as human beings. So yeah, we have a story. We have things to look at and whatnot, but it's it's just that sometimes, as I was saying, it feels like we don't really have nice things because they are nice. We just have nice things because it's easier to say that what we have already is nice enough. It's this necessity to settle down. I guess, I don't know. I have been, it has been an endless struggle to talk out that, or not to talk, to myself experience that and to make sense out of it. How we seem to be so interested in always settling down and not discussing so much what we have around ourselves and what we can experience as ours. All of that stuff exists, and all of that stuff is present around the world. We have we have things, but it's easier sometimes to say that what we have is already good enough than to realize that maybe it isn't really the final product. Maybe it can still be improved upon. And sometimes, if we say that it could be better, it somehow gets taken as if we are not appreciating what we have. I don't know. I don't think that the video games that we have nowadays are bad. I'm just saying, we could have better ones. We are still not in the peak of our creations. We could have even more fantastic designs. We can have even better ideas. The human can still be better, stuff of that sort. And it's it's just once again that when you say it, it doesn't get interpreted as that. It gets more seen as, oh wow, yeah, you you say that we could have better games, so you are saying that the ones that we have right now are bad. Wow, I don't think so. But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. At the very least, it's interesting enough. It's just also part of not having enough time to properly explore everything that exists out there. That's also part of the argument. Sadly, I'm pretty sure there are some mind-blowing games that have already been created, but this whole side of things don't get promoted, the product doesn't reach the desired audience, the perfect audience. It happens way too much. It happens way too much. So maybe there are some wonderful games out there. Maybe there are some wonderful experiences out there. And maybe we just can't find them ourselves because it's incredibly late to do so. Or because I guess everything else that gets constantly created makes it even harder for us to discover a hidden old gem. You cannot expect people to rush dump, no, to garbage. What's it's not trash dump. It's this. I don't remember exactly the expression of, yeah, just exploring all the piles of stuff to find the proper game, the most interesting game existing. But yeah, that's, I guess, something that I wanted to say in regards to that. That yeah, games are interesting, but they could be even more interesting. We are not yet there. We haven't made the most interesting one thus far. We could, and we probably should, aim towards that, but at the same time, it's just, I guess, yeah. In that sense, I am speaking very outside of my place. I am, I'm not somebody who's probably going to make a game in their life, so I should say that as a consideration in general, not much more. Sorry, uh, I don't know. It's complicated. I guess that's I guess, yeah, the first thing to say. Thank you very much for paying attention. That's all that I have to say in regards to video games thus far. I don't know. I have been playing stuff. I don't think it contributes for us to talk about that. I guess, yeah, I am still trying to finish Need for Speed Most Wanted. I started that like last year. I haven't finished the game. It's not exactly complicated, but it becomes tedious once you have to restart the whole game every single time to avoid getting punished by its own mechanics that are incredibly unfair in terms of consequences if you do bad and whatnot. So yeah, I don't know. It's interesting, but it's also not the best. It's good, but just good enough, not surprisingly, astonishingly good. And besides that, I don't know. One game that I am looking forward to, Nutanix. Supposedly it comes out next month, I think it is. Or I don't even know if it is next month, next year. I don't remember exactly when. I remember that I saw its publication date. Like, if it wasn't today, it was literally yesterday. So, not so long ago I saw that. But I don't know. There are way too many things to do. Sometimes video games don't need to take that much of a priority. It's it's weird to keep on looking at that, not because of the need to be less infantile and to play less video games and that whole uh, adult play of reality of, oh wow, yeah, you're playing still video games, you're such a man child or such an undeveloped human being. No, it's just that I guess I can find more entertainment in other things, personally speaking. It's I don't I wouldn't say that playing a video game, a new experience, getting a new game to my yeah, adding a new game to my collection is comparable to adding a new concept to my own mind. It's, I guess, that order of values that makes me say, yeah, I like games, but I haven't seen something that I will go out of my way to actually play. I don't think there are that many games out there. That's what I am talking about. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, I can still see many ideas that I am interested in approaching. I can still point myself towards many concepts that I want to develop, that I want to understand and such, but I don't know that many games that are yeah, similar to that have that same quality or that fall under that same classification, I guess. But anyways, that's besides the point. Ah, just that, I guess. Thank you for listening. Um, Now, moving on, moving on to something different. I don't know. I haven't personally. Let me start with this. I haven't. Is it appropriate to say madurating? Um, I guess. I mean, the proper expression is even meditating or pondering, but at the same time, it's complicated. It doesn't feel all that right to say, but yeah, I have been thinking about this thing of proper dreams interpretation and whatnot, I have found myself with a huge question, and that is to be capable of understanding how is it that we can have a proper interpretation of any kind of thing in the realm of on the oniric realm, let's say. Why does this matter at all, and why did I bring that up? I have been myself finding more and more interesting that whole side of exploring that, not because it is an obligation, but rather because it is always something fun to do. I guess in itself, the human being is always very interconnected, or is closely related to its own dreams. This whole idea of we spend almost a quarter or a third of our life sleeping, therefore dreaming, supposedly. All of that stuff happens, and yeah, it's, I guess, unavoidable for anyone to develop interest in all of that. But at the same time, it's just also a consequence of, and you know what is funny, that we don't really get to have that many awesome discoveries, that many astonishing things. And in my own case, what I am trying to go for, what was my conclusion is, yeah, I don't know. We have ideas, we have some concepts, we have some guidelines as to how to supposedly interpret that, but at the same time, an endless question that I have been posing myself, I assumed I should approach more texts. I guess. Okay, let me explain itself the problem. Then I go to the answer. Sorry, the problem is when anybody tries to interpret a dream, one of the most common issues that arises is sadly that we cannot be 100% sure about what the proper conclusion can be, what the most certain conclusion could be. It's hard to make a proper interpretation without feeling like it is just one of the possible ones. The multiplicity of explanations that could be given to any existing, not problem exactly, but observable phenomena makes it so that all of those things do not exactly demand so much from us in terms of experiencing them, but rather discerning what is the proper conclusion requires more time and effort, and to do so is still incredibly confusing to me. I don't understand how we can ever get to properly say that some conclusion is better, some conclusion is right, some conclusion is an appropriate one compared to the other available ones. It's it's incredibly complicated. I cannot really say if so far, personally, I don't know if there is a proper way to do it, but yeah, I said, that's the issue. The solution that also I understand is always the most useful one in terms of problems of this kind. Anything that has to deal at the very least with the stuff related to psychology is something very funny of, yeah, you just keep accumulating knowledge. At some point, the problem itself ends up being resolved, even if indirectly, somehow, you find solutions to the things that you want to do and that you want to make work, let's say. Why or how? Because something funny is in terms of the, I don't know, how do you say it in English? Psychological manifestation, psychological event, phenomena, whatever. Moments that can be observed, any kind of event that gets to be observed can have multiple interpretations, and thus the most useful action is always to just keep on exploring. In this case, I guess, yeah, the easiest first answer is to just recur to stuff like, I guess, foundational text, I still have to read things like Freud's. What is it? I have the book there, or the name of the book there at the very least. Something along the lines of uh, interpretation of dreams, or about the interpretation of dreams and the unconscious mind, something like that. So I should probably now start reading that. I guess I haven't finally reached the point in which I am consciously aware that I have curiosity about that. I guess there is no better time than right now for me to actually explore what it says. But yeah, at the same time, it's also that there are, once again, that is one text. I am pretty sure at this point in time I have seen, I don't know, a dozen or so solely focused on explaining that phenomena texts, and maybe sometimes it's not so easy to say which one can be the appropriate one to start with. In in a certain way, sadly, something that also I have learned through experience is not really the most precious thing. Is the one that gets classified as a classic, but rather it's something that you can by yourself identify as well. And to do that, you need to actually explore the available opportunities, available, yeah, available items in existence, and only then, through your own judgment, you realize which one serves your goals the best, your individual goals the best. Sometimes it's not as easy as to say that, yeah, oh wow, yeah, I just need something that explains what dreams do. What's this? What's the purpose of a dream? Somewhat true, but at the same time, it's not so accurate. It's an accurate description that anybody can get to very easily. So yeah, a dream is just memories from the past that you get to relive while you're in REM sleep to do everything else that the brain needs to do while you are sleeping. That's it. But that also is not good enough. There are, once again, multiple explanations, but it's in the accumulation of knowledge that the most appropriate one is finally found, I guess, sadly. And I don't know, I don't want to just sound like I am complaining. Sorry for that. It's just that it's surprising to see because I personally also I wasn't really thinking about it, and now I slowly start to remember. Yeah, there have been so many things that I have already read about it. I remember having explored already many different thinkers and different personalities that try to tackle this whole perspective. You even have things like the I guess uh, spiritual explanations as to what dreams represent and what not. I haven't even heard those. I haven't even explored a handful of those possible explanations, and I haven't yet to find a proper way to understand them and whatnot. And it's interesting to see that. It's funny to see that happen because, yeah, no matter what happens, to some degree, it's almost impossible to properly reach a whole conclusion about things, no matter how much they are present in our life and no matter how much we believe that we have already dealt with them, because it just requires a lot more time than what we can actually realize in the first glance that we give it to the trouble in itself or to the thing in itself that we are trying to talk out. So, I don't know, just patience, I guess. One day we're going to reach that, and one day it's going to slowly work in our favor. So, yeah, I don't know, something else to say in relationship to that, relating, related to that. I don't know. Do I even want to say that I want that to analyze my own dreams? I guess so. I guess at the very least, yeah, the most useful thing to have always at hand is the first-hand experiences. If I can feel that I can explain them in a proper way by myself, then I might have more confidence. That whole idea of um, you experience stuff yourself, then you have more confidence to do it with everyone else. Also, good good morning, Spike. I hope you're doing well. Uh, I woke up with mayo in my pants. How? Mayo? Is that a mayo or is that a double entendre? Uh, if you woke up with mayo, maybe you had a mayo in your hands before you went to sleep. Eh, ah, but I how I don't really know. I cannot really explain to you what you did last night for that to happen or the day before. Sounds handy. Handy. Handy mayo. Okay. Ah, but no, yeah. I was just talking about sleep, says. Not sleeps. No, sorry, wrong word. Dreams. That was what I was saying. I guess trying to understand them, trying to finally reach an understanding about that sort of stuff. That's what I was thinking about, and I guess it's interesting. Always, it's as I was saying, it's a recurring thing. We find ourselves always dreaming so much that unavoidably people will find themselves attracted to a possible understanding about the phenomena that plagues their own existence so much. But I don't know. I don't know. Up right, up left, up. Wow. What did he mean by that? Ah, it's just that also, after way too much nothingness, I guess, I just was saying, yeah, I have to read. I have to try to find yet another possible understandable explanation. That's what I need to do. Miss Input, calm down. Um, Prelude of Light, League of. what are you saying? Are you losing your mind? Are you are you schizophrenic? Sorry, I didn't mean that in a bad way. I League of Legends, my favorite video game. Thank you. Can you can you play some rankeds on stream? No. I guess I won't say don't do it, but it's do it to your own discretion. But yeah, I guess I was on, and it's interesting to see that we have to explore so much. It's interesting to see how much it's a prevalent thing in existence, in our own existence. And I don't know. It's just that I want to say I don't even know if it is one of those questions that one day one can fully feel like they have solved it, I guess. There are so many fields at this point that I feel like, at least in a present time, we don't possess enough tools to be fully capable of explaining them. I guess, being honest, I can probably see how we could get to understand more things like dreams if we had enough technology for that. We don't have. I guess the easiest way is, yeah, you know what? You put a person in an MRI machine, magnetic resonance imagery machine, and you get them to demonstrate how their brain functions once they are dreaming. easiest answer to it from that. Wow, yeah. These patterns that also show up in these other sides of your life, that's it. But otherwise, it's almost impossible to do it from our own home. I guess we cannot so easily solve that sort of stuff. We cannot so easily make it out of nowhere understandable. Sadly, I don't know. I don't. I guess it's just an excuse to actually not to do the work. I have to fucking read something. I need to keep on reading and I need to finally try to find a proper enough conclusion to this question, this endless question in this case. And after that, I will probably have a more proper answer to give than to say, yeah. Maybe it is so hard to, maybe it isn't. Maybe it's just a matter of having read the proper materials. I mean, I guess now that I'm starting to slowly remember, uh, I haven't read stuff like young interpretations of dreams and whatnot. And so I don't know. Maybe it's time to also draft something to see how everything else that one already knows might connect to the ideas that they are trying to iterate, let's say. I guess too much studying without actually correlating the stuff. But at the same time, it's not like we are really taught to do that in our actual life. It's not like, oh, yeah. You know what? You want to study so much. You know what you also have to do? You need to sit down and put everything that you have studied together. Not in an exam. No. In a whole diagram of ideas and reach conclusions with that. That's not a method for learning. That's not a usual method. That's not the norm. Unavoidably, that's not something that even I myself I am accustomed to do. So I guess it's also not an excuse to not do it, but it's just not something that normally happens. I guess. Ah, but I don't know. It's one of those many things that once you sit down and think about them, you also realize, yeah, you know what, I might need to work on that, and it you realize that you haven't really put the effort that you should have on that. It's more of a oh, wow. This is not so much of an issue in terms of unresolvableness of the situation itself, but rather it is an issue because I haven't done my part of the work. I guess, yeah, I haven't. I think for the last week or so, thinking about trying to properly understand it after having remind having been reminding myself for so long that I should probably get to that, it finally became a more prevalent question, and yet still I haven't gotten to study stuff directly related to it. So yeah, it's just another signal, I guess, to do the work that is necessary to do. Less worrying about it in terms of making it a bigger problem than what it actually is, but rather uh, hands-on problem solving. Actually getting to do stuff that makes the problem change rather than to say things about the problem in order to just feel better. But at the same time, I don't know. Bigger scheme of things, it's also necessary for the person to be capable of realizing how it is necessary for them to act in different ways in relationship to the problems that they possess. If we do not get to have a proper knowledge about how we might proceed in any way, it is not so possible for anybody to at all be capable of solving the issues that they have, no matter what problem we have, even if we can theoretically know the answer, if we personally cannot even realize that there is a possible answer that can make it work, doesn't matter. Let's say, in a hypothetical scenario, every single problem that any human being could have might already have been solved by someone else before. It doesn't matter. What matters is that we ourselves can find a way to make it work and to not have that problem anymore, let's say. But I don't know. Doing the work, as always, doing the work is a lot harder than actually saying than what doing the work feels like. So, anyway. Let me drink some water. That's the actual problem and that's the actual solution to the problem. Drink some water. I shouldn't close the battle. Yesterday, I finished stream. I got up, finished stream, and I think like the action that I took of the biggest importance the next 5 minutes after that was I forgot to close the water bottle and I fucking dropped it on the ground. It was so funny. I spilled the water everywhere. I'm so incredibly dumb sometimes. But anyways, the point is not that. Mistakes happen. Also, I mean, the other day I also had that issue with I don't even know how I ended up changing the canvas of the streams somehow. So that messed up almost everything on screen for I think like 2 streams at the very least were somehow scuffed due to that and nothing else. So yeah, I don't know. Issues like that can exist, but doesn't matter as much. Doesn't have such a big impact in reality. We also, I guess, I don't know, dealing with anxiety would be the proper name of this one thing. Sometimes things also are problems in terms of, oh yeah, you know what, I also have to read out things. I have to keep on reading and I have to keep on analyzing things and I have to keep on consuming knowledge to also be capable of applying that in any other way in my own existence. And that is true, but at the same time, the way in which we confront those things plays much more of a bigger role than what we can otherwise realize or what we can otherwise say. Sadly, I guess, I don't know, what I have been approaching more and more, let me say it like this, what I have been getting closer to day by day is an unconscious realization of, yeah, you know what? It seems that many of the situations that the human being has to go through are not so much of a situation in themselves, but rather the problem exists in the human's mind. So it seems to be that it is necessary to be capable of solving all of that, but at the same time, unavoidably, even if there are some situations that objectively can be dangerous for any kind of human being and that can lead to consequences, to negative consequences to anyone, it seems to be that, yeah, most of it, I guess 90% of it is under that category of it's not so bad. Actually, it's just that we ourselves make it look bad due to how we have settled down on thinking about it, and that's, I guess, puzzling to say the least. Not because it's so bad, but rather because it's just, I guess, too much responsibility to say that. I don't want to, personally, as somebody who has been also seeing that too much, who has been struggling against that idea, I guess, I I don't think it makes all that sense to say, oh yeah, you know what? Many problems are due to me. I it's also nice to sometimes blame everything else, to not be responsible for our own problems, you know. But it's, I guess, not that having agency is bad, but rather realizing that we are also part of the situation. Not to say, oh yeah, we are the problem, I am the problem in my own life, but rather that I also play a role in the way in which the things also get to be. Takes way too much energy. I don't want to deal with the notion that sometimes I might be making a bigger mess due to how I myself see the stuff happen. I don't want to make it look like I actually. I guess that is the biggest issue with all of this. I want to talk out how I fucked up my own life and I realized that out of nowhere, yeah, it was not someone else's problem, but rather literally mine. I don't want that. I like more all the other alternatives. I want to blame someone else for that. I don't want to say, oh wow, yeah, I fucked up my own life. Me, myself. That's incredibly harsh. I don't want that. I don't need that. I don't desire to get to that conclusion. I guess one of the many intense fights has also been to read enough things to also see how all of the clues lead to any other conclusion that isn't that one. But at the same time, it still is. So far, I can only say agreeable that, yeah, sadly, the consequences lay mostly on the hand of the person, not on much more, sadly. Once again, being generous, 90% of the things that happen in life have not so much of an effect of any kind. Rather, it is how we interpret that 90% that matters, and only 10% of it matters as much. Once again, being generous, I might even say 5%. 1% is truly that impactful. Everything else is, oh yeah, me and the way in which I see it. Me making a bigger or lesser deal out of everything else, you know? But I don't know, it's subjectivity is always a big problem, brother. It's easy to say that it happens, that it exists out there, but once again, do I have to actually think about it? Do I have to actually place myself in the position of the person who goes through all of that? How many things have I also already made judgments about that I never realized? How many things have I already decided on? Have I already settled on? How many decisions of mine are already having an impact on my own existence? And I never tried to stop and think about it besides the existence already being taken. I I don't know exactly if I require a solution or an exact answer, but I know that I can at the very least try to have something in any kind of clue about it. To not be struggling so much about it myself, I guess. And yeah, sadly, everything else, as I was saying, makes it look like the issue doesn't truly reside on the rest. It's sadly not so much a matter of, oh yeah, what can I blame today? But rather how I do in life and what's not, I guess. But anyways, this is this is getting out of hand, or we cannot continue down that path. Fucking switch, say something else. I guess. I know. Sorry. I don't know. I guess that. Also, let me let me drink some water after that. Yeah, properly changing into something else. I don't know. I haven't, as always. I think it's. I shouldn't need to say I have been reading, consuming something. It's like, as always, the endless event. I think everybody is consuming something, no matter what. We are always consuming stuff, and I haven't. Okay, let me say it like this: something funny has been happening in terms of the things that I have been watching that have more of a basic entertainment value, and that is one of the many consequences of having consumed so much of everything else in terms of, oh yeah, I guess I don't want to exactly classify it as metaphysical. I don't even know exactly what the fuck is metaphysical in terms of the big definition of it. I know metaphysics, but what is actually metaphysical? What speaks out the state of being? Maybe, I guess so. Is psychology metaphysical? I don't think so, but yeah. Basically, as I was trying to define before, the psychological phenomena, anything that has some sort of relationship to that in any of its iterations, be it directly as a psychological phenomena being addressed as such, or any other mode of interpretation of it through all the other lenses that the different, I guess, disciplines offer. in terms of, we can try to be talking about not exactly a psychological one, but rather a sociological one. We can actually not be talking about a psychological, sociological one, but rather also a cultural one. It can be many things, truly. But the point is, any kind of thing that happens that can be interpreted in any way through the different social sciences, I guess. That's the easiest way to describe it, yeah. And in relationship to that, the consumption of any kind of more normal media has also seemed to be affected. In my personal experience, I wasn't expecting to find so much stuff on I guess I don't know. I guess I cannot enjoy a movie nowadays. Not as a as a sad thing, but rather as a reality. I cannot truly enjoy something without having all the other ideas appear in my mind. Like, oh yeah, I don't know. I guess yeah. I haven't, for example, I don't remember movies names. That's the issue. Fuck. Uh, Release. I think they got the name of the movie is like Cards from Elise or For Elise, something like that. It is the name of the movie. It is about a guy who receives some cards from his deceased wife. Okay, that's all that I can rapidly say. And all of that stuff is in itself interesting, but also sadly, you also start to see way too deep into things. And I'm not saying it as in, oh wow, yeah, I'm so superior. I think unavoidably. The reality is any person who possesses any kind of expertise on any area will automatically find themselves utilizing their knowledge in all of the things that are related to that area, even if they don't want to actively do that. I guess, I don't know, you're a proper construction engineer, you will always find yourself touching the stuff that you see, even if you don't want to do it. You will see that you have such an easiness with all of that that you will still do it. Same thing happens here, and it's just in my case I am trying to say, not that it happens, not that it is something bad, but rather that it is something quite fun. I think it doesn't make cinema in itself less enjoyable, but rather it allows for for many more interpretations. I don't think it is proper to say still that it becomes a tool for anything else to interpret things. It just brings out the possibility of doing it, and it allows for the utilization of knowledge in any kind of way, as long as it is in relationship to what one has learned. I guess there is this whole idea of archetypes and whatnot that exists unavoidably within cinema and within the whole cinematic language and whatnot. And the yeah, like I said, cinematic language that populates all media, our audiovisual media, sorry, and most of that can fall under categories of analysis that allow anyone to try to see what the point is or what can be extracted from it. But the issue is also that it makes it very, very hard to not watch stuff and not be touching it in any other way. Not that it needs to happen to enjoy it more, but rather, I guess sadly things have changed forever now. It's just, I don't know, it's just like how events that alter the way in which you keep processing life, not exactly a traumatic event of sorts. The trauma itself is called so because it might be negative, but otherwise this might also be as traumatic, quote unquote, but just because it makes it be different. Not because it is something bad. It's just an alteration in which one sees the rest of reality. That's it. Not something bad. It's just the reality of, yeah, you know what? You wanted to learn about this stuff, you will learn about this stuff, and now you will see. You will find out what it actually means. Wow. And that's it. But the point is, it makes it, yeah, also a lot more entertaining on a certain degree. It makes it so that in many cases, even a very average movie can have much more ways of being interpreted just because it actually offers things for the viewer to get, let's say, and that is also a fantastical consequence of the acquisition of knowledge, that somehow you will find yourself more entertained by daily mundane things somehow. I guess it's like, I don't know, we can translate it into something else, but also I don't truly like those sort of definitions. But uh, I guess in more modern speech, you can also say it as, oh wow, yeah, um, your artistic interest. You can utilize your artistic interest to find similarities and resonances in the rest of the world. Therefore, you can be not entertained in the rest of reality, even if it is as boring. Not exactly. It's still a reduction that doesn't fully explain it, but it's, as I said, a sort of translation into a different mode of seeing it, I guess. But yeah, anyways, I guess, I don't know. I have also, I realized, I, I, I was talking about it, and I didn't realize I found myself watching so many things that are under that utterly dramatic category. And that's also partially why it's so fucking hard for me to watch anything. I guess I shouldn't watch so much drama. I shouldn't be such a dramatic person, as they will say. But I don't know. It's nice. It's entertaining, even if it makes it so that a thousand different frictions arise within oneself when trying to consume anything. What is it? Wholly accepting that perspective of art that disturbs the normal. Oh, no, disturbs. What is it? What is the? Ah, yeah, alters the normal, normalizes. Alternative? No, no, fuck. I don't remember exactly the word. Something along those lines of, yeah. Art that allows the disturbed to be comforted and that discomforts the normal person. Basically that, yeah. It's it's funny anyways. It's it's finally finding a way in which at least that can happen. Otherwise it's just alienation for something that can in many other ways be as fun, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not actually, I guess, angry. It's just it takes so much time. It always is a question of, wow, yeah, is this truly something that we're actually going to do? Damn. But anyways, something else to say about movies? I don't think so. I don't know. I I always find it funny. Yeah, I was. Let me say like this. I already mentioned that in relationship to games, and the same thing does happen in this case actually with movies. It's incredibly funny to see how many movies that have already been created end up being utterly wonderful to watch. It's not so much necessary to be looking forward to the future and to have expectations in terms of, oh wow, yeah, maybe one day something wonderful will happen and something new will get created that calls to me. No, it doesn't happen like that. Thankfully, it doesn't happen like that. But it's just that also it is still a question of fuck. I have to explore so much to find something interesting. Ah, but anyways, it's just part of being. That sadly, we have so many things out there nowadays that everything is also about developing a sense of quality that we can adhere to so that we can search stuff more rapidly and classify it more securely so that we end up arriving at things that we like with more certainty, you know? But anyways, that's my whole point is. Besides that, do you have anything else to truly say about the movies? No, I don't think so. Thank you, thank you very much. Let me drink some water. Also, okay, I haven't actually thinking about it. I guess it's incredibly difficult to do that, but I haven't thinking. I haven't. I guess while thinking about it everywhere else, also trying to bring that here in terms of, oh wow, yeah, I don't know. I can very easily criticize someone else because I find issues in the ways in which they do stuff. I can also find that I can sometimes apply that same type of critique to here. So, one of the many things that I was thinking about was something very funny that happened in relationship to. I was, as always, most of the stuff that I consume is educational content. Something funny that happens is I do fear uh, talking way too much about just educational stuff. One of the certainties of all of that, of all of those issues, is sadly there is no certification here, and nobody should ever trust me. No, no, I don't want people to understand this stuff through me. I guess more than anything else, because I myself know that I end up not having whole understanding about things, understanding about stuff. I am not that sort of guy. So, yes, on one hand, that's an excuse. On the other one, we are still people of our own will. And even if I don't want that to happen, if somebody decides to somehow take any message out of here, despite that, I cannot really change that. So, I think that what is slowly going to start happening is we're going to find ourselves explaining stuff a lot more. So, I don't know. This probably is going to be like a highlight of sorts. I am pretty sure. I will make more explanations for things. And I fear that we are going to be making a lot of shit up. I don't want to say that in terms of, oh yeah, actually making it up, but uh, I wouldn't trust myself. I wouldn't trust. If I was someone else consuming this, I wouldn't trust even a single word that this guy says. You know, I I am not. I wouldn't trust that. I wouldn't deposit my learning capacities on this person. But anyways, that's my problem to deal with, not yours. So we are slowly going to start talking about many more things than what probably if we are being more cautious we shouldn't. It's very funny to do that anyway. So The real main point is always we are here to have fun, not to fucking lament ourselves. Even if in some cases we do lament ourselves, we still do so because it is funny. It's like that living contradiction of wow, yeah, I found myself getting pissed at stuff just because it was somehow different or whatever. But actually, it's not so bad. It's just that, man, I, we can all have a sense of, you know what, this thing is actually quite interesting or quite wonderful to talk about, even if it certainly might not be us who need to say it to talk about it in any way. It's sadly one of the many consequences of having seen so much stuff is that, yeah, that's what I was talking about before in terms of video games. Once again, extrapolate that to everything else. The content doesn't reach its desired audience, its best, but potentially most appropriate audience. It almost never happens. Many things that should be heard by people don't reach them. I would go as far as to say many incredibly amazing discoveries will never be found. Not because they just don't exist, but rather because it's at this point so much expansion in all senses that it's impossible for us to reach that, sadly. So at least we can do our work here in terms of, oh yeah, you know what, I have this tiny thing to talk out. And maybe, once again, we are not fucking teachers. Uh, don't expect appropriate explanations from me, but we can still try to do that. Even if it is partial, we can still try to do that. It's better to have tried and failed than to not have tried at all, and it's better to try and succeed than to just settle down with trying and failing. Also, so we have to see. We have to see. In many ways, it's also, I don't know, the eternal discussion of, oh wow, yeah, I might not be the appropriate person. One of the many things that I also know is, sadly, it's not so much that we are not truly capable of doing things, it's also that in many cases, if we say that we can do things without properly having already demonstrated that, sadly, it only feels like we are boasting. We are uh, making ourselves look better than what we actually are. And it's not something bad in itself, sadly. We have that capacity to recognize people doing that for a certain reason, unavoidably. We need proofs of authenticity and of capacities because otherwise we end up being tricked. But sadly, it also unavoidably ends up, I guess, undermining all of our other, not the word exactly isn't performances, but actions of sorts like that. So yeah. Also, why did I just lag? Anyway, it lagged for a second. Don't worry. Sorry. It was it was like a huge spike. But nothing to actually worry about, I guess. I hope so. I I actually hope so. But anyways, I don't know. Why was I saying that? Is the actual question that we should ask ourselves. Because I found myself thinking about something that I ended up reaching a certain content. I was, I cannot even tell you why. Not because I don't know, because I don't remember exactly how. I think it was in the YouTube homepage. One of the many recommendations of YouTube is it was in this time. Oh yeah, this person talking about things to do to increase or to supposedly boost your metabolism, I think that's the word that they utilized. To increase your digestion, that's a more proper definition, I think. Not metabolism. Or to metabolize foods more rapidly, something along those lines, basically. And yeah, I don't know. From my perspective, that's something that I don't want to actually talk about in terms of it's incredibly dangerous to pronounce ourselves in certain topics because we can easily say stuff. Can we actually demonstrate that? I don't want to spend, I don't know, 20 years of my life demonstrating something that is otherwise through the observation of ours, through the capacity of observing things, understandable. To create proper, exact, concrete, irrefutable proofs is a completely different action than to just say this thing might be not like what you just stated. A discussion is easy to have. A proper demonstration of the things that we are both talking about. That doesn't happen as much, and that's, I guess, sadly not so common. But at the same time, it can even if it doesn't happen so much, it can still happen. So my point is still, I am just fucking kicking the bush around instead of talking about it. Sorry. My point was, yeah, this person was talking about, yeah, the many ways in which you can make that happen, and in which the modes of solving that exist and whatnot. And one of the things that they didn't mention at all is also the factor of how we feel about stuff. If you think that it will work, it increases the chances of success quite a lot. And I was thinking about it in terms of there is always something funny that has to be done, particularly with medicines and whatnot. The control groups have to, or sorry, let me explain more properly. There is always in the trial phases of drugs of any kind, there is process of having to put it through different groups. And in the control groups, you have both the people who are being administered the proper drug, the real drug, and also the placebos. And something funny that happens is no matter what we do, no matter what drug we create, as long as as the people aren't told that they are consuming placebos, even if it is just by a tiny percentage, they can demonstrate the cues, they can demonstrate the symptoms of having consumed the real drug. Even if, I literally just said, even if they have consumed the placebo, they will demonstrate that. Why? That same idea of mind over body sadly is incredibly much more potent than what we can otherwise ever point at. And yeah, sadly, we don't talk about that enough. We don't dedicate enough of our time to understand it and to be capable of utilizing it in any way in which it actually makes an impact in our life. Why? Because we can say, we're gonna stay at the notion that, oh, yeah. If it makes sense for you, it will actually be a lot easier for you to get the results that you're looking for. Wow! No. The reality is also something funny that happens with all of that is the way in which we can keep on creating and accumulating certainty about the actions that we perform and whatnot is also through more accumulation itself of knowledge about the things that we are trying to do. In a certain way, let's say that if we're aspiring to be capable of realizing, of understanding, and of grasping as much as we want, as we, I wouldn't say need, as we desire, the certain things that we are trying to include in our modes of existence, we have to be capable of accumulating a lot of it so that it can proficiently work. Otherwise, no matter what we are doing on the counter effect side, let's say, if we don't even know what's working, why is it making things go in the right direction, we could even get a much worse result than what we could potentially get. I guess it's this sad discussion that doesn't want to happen, I guess, in the culture because once again, accountability, you know, this fantastical reality of wow, yeah, now you have to be accountable for the way in which you interpret the things that you do and how they impact your life. This was this starting discussion was with just diets, modes of digestion, and whatnot. Yeah, true. But at the same time, once again, the placebo effect can be found almost in any kind of event, in any kind of consumption of things. I the, both, I guess, placebo and nocivo effects can be found within, I guess. I, Once again, I was being generous earlier when I said like 90%, 90% of the things that happen have to deal mostly with the way in which we interpret them. 10% is truly that important in itself, in anyone's existence. Okay, even more generous, 95% of the stuff that we consume, of the things that, of the ways in which we interpret it, the stuff that happens to us, might have any kind of placebo or nocebo effect on us. Only 5% of it is truly all that important, I think it is. Once again, being generous. Don't don't quote me on that. I am making numbers the fuck up. But yeah, it's it's complicated to talk about it. Why? Because we don't we don't possess enough awareness about all of that stuff. It's sadly a complicated discussion to have. Sadly, also because one of the many consequences is you want people to inform themselves. What does it actually entail? What's the proper point that we are trying to reach when we say that? Do we just want people to do better, or do we just want people to follow our narrative? Because, I don't know, at this point, being honest, the possibility opens up for, oh, wow, yeah, yeah, and you should start reading these things, you should start consuming this knowledge, you should start gaining awareness of this stuff. Maybe not. Maybe you should keep yourself away from all of these other things. Maybe. That is, at that point, it does become internal discourse, or not internal discourse, subjective discourse, and trying to sway you towards a certain perspective. But actually, the point is, gain awareness. That's it. Gain more awareness, and I guess try to see how that feels. Because something funny that happens is when once we become more and more aware, we start to realize how that impacts everything else, and how also, I guess, more than anything else, how we have also many more possibilities of becoming aware about the stuff in many other areas, instances of our life and whatnot, so it stops being such a problem otherwise. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I wouldn't get exactly angry about it, it's just that we are quite incapable of thinking about it in general in proper ways, let's say. So just to bring that to the table, if nothing else, I guess. But yeah, it's just it's just complicated as always. It's something that takes way too much time, and sometimes it's not so easy. I mean, I can demand it. Can we actually do a change in our life? Can we actually acquire consciousness about things? Can we actually make efforts to alter things and whatnot? I don't know. I can only eat. Let's say example. I can only eat hot dogs for lunch and dinner. I don't have money for much more. Now you also want me to become aware of how unhealthy that is? I don't want to think about that. And something funny that can happen is, reciprocally, I ignore all of the downsides. Placebo effect can somehow impact me and make me not be as unhealthy as somebody who is fully aware of how much I am killing myself by doing that. I don't need to be tormented by the truthiness of the things that I do sometimes, you know? So That's why I said it's complicated. But I don't know. That's also why it's easier to complain than to do something actually about the things that exist and whatnot. But yeah, that was my point, I guess. Thank you. Now, do I have something else to say? I know. I know the issue is about what? I don't know, it's we're like once again entering an incredibly risky terrain in which I might start to be overly opinionated about things that I shouldn't say anything about. I don't know. It's complicated. I guess I have been reading way too much stuff, and I am having an incredibly hard time trying to bring any of those things onto here lately. I guess also because partially, I don't know. For example, I remember I had been going through a lot of text, a lot of information that is related to as a person who is studying to get a degree, I have to, for some reason, even if I am not personally going to at all work with children, I have to go through a lot of information that is correlated or is directly related to child development and whatnot. So I don't know if I can bring any of those things here. Does it actually matter? I don't think. I guess Unavoidably, being realistic, something useful is to possess that knowledge in the case that anybody here ends up somehow having to deal with all of those things. But at the same time, you know what? In some cases, we don't want to worry ourselves with things that might not be as impending. I don't know. We can also talk about doing our taxes, but we decide not to. Nobody here has to actually worry themselves about doing them, so we decide to stay away from that. We could possibly once again justify it as, oh wow, yeah, but somebody has to go through that at some point. So maybe we can talk about it, and maybe we can what is it, lessen someone's not suffering exactly, but rather struggle through that thing by contributing or tiny grain of sand to their efforts, to their future endeavors and whatnot. Maybe somebody somehow one day end up being, I don't know, uh, the the person who has to take care of a children. Do we actually need to worry ourselves with that? Do we actually need to talk about it? I don't think that's all that important. I don't know. There are way too many other things that we can actually utilize. Mostly, as always, there is always something funny that I talk about actually, and that is because supposedly we're all of here adults, so we supposedly have to talk more about uh, adult stuff, even if it's not the case. I guess on a very contradicting way. Something funny that I have come to realize is sadly, yeah, the common expression is you learn to be the inner child learns to play the game of being an adult so that you can be enough an adult so that no one else sees you as a child in this grand society in which we live nowadays, in which it is necessary to perform to be this idealized adult figure that exists within reality, but we all of us are still just big babies who believe that they can be something else besides what they actually are. And we can hide behind those masks of, well, yeah, I don't know, I'm a very serious person and blah blah blah. And I don't know, I guess it can be true, but at the same time, it's not like we are always obliged to talk only about, oh yeah, yeah, you know, I the other day I wrote down and I'm thinking of doing it. I don't know. Sometimes being an adult is also, I don't know. I guess going out, taking a walk in the park, whatnot. it's it's this incredibly funny situation that happens when there are way too many things under one category. What the fuck does being an adult actually entail? Responsibilities? Even kids have those. Liberty, freedom, will, the capacity to exercise our own will more freely. I don't know. There are adults who live in horrible conditions. We have places like prisons. Are they adults because they live there, or are they not anymore adults because they live there? But I don't know. Anyways, that whole, yeah. I heard one of the many things I heard today was, even if it is not completely true based on what it was being used for, in some cases, yeah, certainly, an issue of philosophy is how we can easily lose ourselves in the semantics of stuff. It doesn't matter how much, what the fuck we're using for the idea of an adult. What matters is that we understand, both you and me, that we're talking about an adult. We won't ever have the same, similar, exact image, and it doesn't exactly need to be the most precise definition of an adult. Oh, yeah, an adult is a person that lives between the it's a living person that has between, I guess, 18 and, I don't know, 70. Otherwise, they are going to be, if they are above that, um, elders or older people. So, an adult is this categorical person that also has these other freedoms and blah, 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 blah. And spending the next 5 hours trying to define something that we don't actually care that much about. The point is, yeah, it's complicated to talk about that stuff. It's complicated not because it is truly impossible to mention, but rather because it's funny to see that, yeah, in many ways, we find ourselves actually not having so many things, not to actually say, but to actually be capable of stating. It's complicated. I guess, I don't know. For example, something incredibly hard it is to mention here. Yeah, you know what? And the adult has also to reconcile with their inner child. What the fuck are you talking about? What's actually the point of that? How can we get to ever do that? How is it possible to reach proper knowledge about those things if we never get ourselves to understand it? And I don't know, I guess, yeah, the only thing, being honest, the only thing that I can do is probably promise more precision when trying to talk about that at the best, in combination with what I mentioned, like through, I guess, 3 to 4 topics ago. Um, Maybe it's also time to start slowly explaining more stuff out. This whole funny idea of, oh yeah, time to bring the blackboard, whiteboard up and picture things out. That whole thing probably has to happen a little bit more so that we can actually get to understand stuff. It's complicated, I guess, unavoidably. It's just like with any other instance of explaining stuff of this sort that happens, it's complicated to expect people to understand things if we don't actually sit down and explain them outright. I guess, I don't know. Oh, yeah, yeah. You have to somehow take out from here that we are talking about adults, but at the same time not, but at the same time yes, but at the same time we are criticizing them, but at the same time we are accepting them, but at the, blah. Brother, can you fucking be concise? What's the point? you know? So yeah, sorry. Try. We are slowly working on stuff. That's the best motto for this. We are going to slowly get, as always, better at things. Just trust the process. But anyways, I don't know. I that's that about that. I guess I don't know. I being honest. No. Being honest. Fuck. I forget so much that I have responsibilities. I hate that. I actually hate that. Not that I hate having responsibilities, but rather that I hate that I can so easily forget about them. Uh, but yeah, I being a responsible human being can still be fun, but it also requires quite a lot of attention that sometimes I don't possess. So yeah, Ah, we we are still working on everything else. I will try to follow through with what I said. That's my best promise, warning. I don't know something. Uh, I explained it. I don't know something. Anyways, the point is that yeah, we have to be done for today. We why? Because I said responsibilities. I should actually start studying. I have like one exam next week, I think. So yeah, I I will have to sit down and fucking study, and I haven't done that so far. So no, yeah, wait. Let me say this, just in case. I don't know. I don't guess. I assume that nobody here is a student, so it's not so necessary to say it. But yeah, one of the many wonderful things that I learned throughout existence has been this idea that the day before and the day itself in which you are preparing an exam, you shouldn't be studying. Why? It is useless to do that. The best periods of absorption for knowledge all are literally everywhere else before the exam, but those 2 days. If you are trying to force knowledge to enter your brain in those 2 days, you're not going to retain it enough to be capable of properly using it in any practical way. If you have to parrot it, that's a different question. And you can still go through the ideas to be capable of using them in any way, but you can't at all just state, I guess, or just go through all the knowledge in 1 or 2 days. Or more exactly, the day before and the day exactly in which you have the exams. More so, this comes in relationship to, or in relation to uh, advanced exams. I guess, I don't know, if you have to do something like, oh yeah, can you demonstrate to me how you actually do things like basic equations, how you add the two numbers up, how you extract from one of them. Maybe there it's easier to do just you learn about it the day before and that's it, but with true concepts. I don't know, can you explain the world of ideas that Plato was talking about on his book called The Republic? Can you be capable of delineating and demonstrating what was Plato's point by the time he reached his final conclusion in the book? Can you summarize his whole perspective on morality? That sort of stuff, yeah, cannot happen in 1 day, sadly. So yeah, I don't know. Good luck, and once again, sorry for taking so long. I don't know. Uh, being responsible is also complicated because sometimes you don't want to be responsible. You also want to fuck around. But as the expression goes, you fuck around and you find out. So yeah, don't do that. Anyways, yeah. Thank you for everything. Have a wonderful night. Have a wonderful day. Thanks for once again. Sorry, everything. And yeah, hydrate, drink something, eat something, do something. And yeah, see you next time. Tomorrow, probably with the bar, I guess. Until then, have a nice existence.